I've been working as a writer and a teacher and broadcaster, mostly, and a film programmer, mostly all of it related to film and pop culture and media, for, I guess, probably about 35 years. And I worked at the Toronto International Film Festival many years ago. And right now we are in Workman Arts, which is where it is my base, from which I operate as the program director for a film festival called the Rendezvous with Madness Film Festival. So I've done all kinds of stuff. Well, I think, film festivals are, they can be necessary and they can be important. I think one of the most important things that a film festival provides is an opportunity for filmmakers to basically, two things. One is just to have an audience, like a live audience. I think that even in the, even though there are all kinds of opportunities now for people to see your films that didn't exist before, I think that for filmmakers, there is nothing quite like that immediate feedback in a room with an audience. I think that's really important. I also think that film festivals, in terms of, some film festivals can be very effective at generating interest in films. They can be very important in terms of getting press reaction to films. And they can also be really important in terms of allowing filmmakers an opportunity to meet other filmmakers. And I think that's pretty important too, because I think that it is still the nature of this huge country that people tend to work in isolated pockets. So the more opportunity you can share your experience with people from other parts of this country, as well as filmmakers who are working in other countries, in that sense, I think that film festivals can be, extremely important for filmmakers. The other thing is that there may be, something like, I've heard numbers everywhere from 75 to 200 events in the Toronto area that call themselves film festivals. Whether either of those numbers is pretty intimidating. But the other fact that is really important is that there's only really one film festival in this city that has this massive international reputation. And the fact that TIFF looms so large over all other festival events in Toronto also means that, that's the one that everybody wants to get into, and everything else becomes kind of, I think, is not quite as important as getting into that film festival. Well, I think, TIFF has undergone an evolution that in a way is entirely natural. At the beginning, when the film festival started, it called itself the Festival of Festivals because essentially what it set out to do was to show the best work that had been shown in other international film festivals. And that was the first thing that it attempted to do. And there was kind of a recognition in that getting those international premieres on its own was probably going to be challenging. But what happened was that as it began to acquire more and more significant films and found itself also being able to invite celebrities and movie stars who were attached to those films, the status of the film festival grew in only one way, which was that it became more attractive to the press, it became more attractive to the international industry, and eventually became extremely attractive to Hollywood itself. So what that has meant is that a lot of the things about the film festival that one might look back on in its early years and miss, which was the fact that you could kind of go to one movie theater and hang around there and see 8 different movies. The celebrities tended to kind of be very available in terms of coming to screenings and talking to people. Navigating the festival on that level was a lot easier. There was a lot less security. There were a lot less by way of kind of, formalities that you had to go through. It was a lot less restrictive. It was a whole lot cheaper. This is the other thing, too, that I remind people of was, there was a time when it was a bargain to see movies at the Toronto Film Festival. It was actually cheaper than going to see a movie that was in regular release. But as I said, the way the film festival has evolved is actually not really surprising to me, because it's not really a contradiction of what the festival originally set out to do. The festival has always had in it a desire to be well known, a desire to be internationally competitive, a desire to have that status, a desire to have that prestige. And the thing is that the way that the film festival functions is on attracting the interest of people who can contribute money to the festival. And a lot of those people are understandably impressed by the status of the festival, and this kind of success is one of those things that tends to make them a little bit more likely to contribute their contributions. Well, what's happened with the Lightbox is that the Lightbox has become, not only is it a really kind of significant venue in which to see the kinds of movies that we used to only see in smaller theaters, those things that they once called art houses. The fact is the Lightbox has basically become the home to most forms of commercial, non-Hollywood film. It is very, very important that there is a home for those kinds of films, because otherwise they tend not to get shown. In cities that don't have a designated kind of theater or venue for those kinds of films, they're just not shown there. And if your city doesn't have a film festival, then they're kind of never shown there. I think that the other thing is that the Lightbox has also become a kind of a facility in which a lot of the local film festivals also have a home. And I think that is it's good to have that, because finding venues can be very difficult. I do think, though, that it's the Lightbox has been around for 5 or 6 years now. And we have had our festival partly in the Lightbox. And this is just my personal opinion, is that the environment itself is not a very architecturally warm environment. The Lightbox to me feels a little bit like an airport. And what I feel is that if you're trying to have an event, and we try to do this with the Rendezvous with Madness, is to create a very strong community kind of event that people can come to. And often what is the highlight of the Rendezvous is, in fact, the discussions that take place after the screenings. And they are discussions that almost invariably involve people who are seeing their experiences and their struggles reflected on film. So we have some very intense, very personal, very cathartic discussions that take place. And around that exists a sense of community, a sense of intimacy that sometimes feels as though it's at odds with that environment. And so it's going to be interesting to see whether or not some of the local film festivals might want to, for the sake of having that kind of that smaller, more intimate community experience, which is, if you want to set yourself apart from TIFF, that's one way to do it, because that's not what TIFF is about anymore. I think that probably what you will see is some of the film festivals may drift away from the Lightbox and seek out other venues in which to have their events.